Hey everyone, this is Cameron, the co-host and editor of Renegade Animation on renegadepopculture.com. If you like what we do, please give us a like, a follow, and a rating on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to us. We are everywhere where podcasts can be found. If you can, consider supporting our Patreon. That way we can keep doing what we love, and that's talking about this wild, goofy world of animation. And now, on with the show.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host this evening. Joining me, as always, is the animation guru himself, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And today is a special one because we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of the cult classic, A Goofy Movie. And I know that sounds weird to say about a Disney movie, but as we'll get into, there is a history with this project.
Most of Disney's film canon are considered classics, but a lot of them were not successful. Fantasia, Sleeping Beauty. A Goofy Movie is one of those that could have easily been stuck as like a fan favorite, an oddity among the 90s releases for Disney. But through time, very quickly, it became one of the most beloved fan favorite films of Disney's canon. The fan base is so strong, they basically said to Disney, this is a Disney canon movie. This is one of their canon releases, even though this was technically part of the B team movies that Disney attempted to release during the 90s, but with no real success, unfortunately. This includes stuff like the DuckTales movie, and I know some people consider The Rescuers Down Under a Disney classic, but I do still think it has that cult favorite fan following scale. It's not like one of the hardcore, like certified classics. It's an almost instant classic and such, as you could say.
Yeah, I love The Rescuers Down Under, but clearly it's not on the same level as like Beauty and the Beast or Aladdin or The Little Mermaid.
The odd thing about this movie is that, well, on top of its 30th anniversary this year, we also got a documentary called Not Just a Goof, where they talked about the whole production process of what went on with making this movie, starting from it being just a feature-length version of the Goof Troop show until Jeffrey Katzenberg, when he used to be someone and not just one of the biggest tools of the tech and entertainment industry, the founder of the all-time classic service Quibi. But he came in and he saw the storyboards for a comedic sequence, and he told the team, saying like, okay, well, this is fine and all, like, I've seen this, what's the catch, what's the twist, what's the pull, what's the gimmick? Or as the documentary would put it, with him looking like the evil queen from Snow White, I want the heart, show me the heart. Which, I love that documentary, having these like rough or almost polished out 2D animated sequences. And it's all done in like if they were all in the world of Goofy, which Goofy is such an oddity among Disney's like lineup of characters, mostly because of his trajectory as a character. He was one of those, like, yeah, he's one of Mickey's pals, one of his closest friends. I mean, come on, he's one of the secondary characters in like Kingdom Hearts and such, along with the lead character Sora. Like, there's a reason why he's been here for so long. But he was not always for kids, for families. Like, it's weird. You look at a lot of his shorts, and they were always like disconnected from the rest of like whatever world Disney was crafting for like Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse and such.
Goofy shorts have always kind of had their own unique identity, whether it was the how-to shorts or in the 50s when he went under a different identity, George Geef.
Well, they were more aimed at adults because, like, Mickey was your child-friendly character, your whimsy shenanigans character. Donald was like the older kid character where he would have more, like, he was like a rebellious teenager with his anger issues and such. With Goofy, his shorts were like, he was the adult. A lot of his shorts were about very adult topics, like being a stay-at-home dad, or they would make jokes or commentate about sports and sports fans and what have you. There were probably more adult jokes in the Goofy shorts than in any of the Mickey and Donald shorts, but I would have to like deep dive into that, and that's just a lot of work, and we don't have time for that unless we can do this for a living. So, and then to see him like, and I think this is a thing from Disney, they regressed him back to being an adult character. To a more family-friendly character. He was no longer letting adult jokes slide through. He was family-friendly again. And then, of course, there was DuckTales, and then Mickey was doing his own thing, especially with that one short that Disney just will not re-release for some reason. Not the Prince and the Pauper one, but the Frankenstein
Runaway
one.
Brain.
Yeah. Which, I mean, come on, Disney. Just do it. Just put it on Disney Plus. People love it. And then, obviously, in the 90s, Goofy came back with Goof Troop, where he had a son, Max. What about his son from the shorts? Don't ask about it. Don't question it. Just ignore it. Just entirely different Goofy continuity timeline, people. And then I brought in, like, Pete as his neighbor, and they each had, like, familial shenanigans and such, where Goofy was a single dad raising his son, and Pete was the loudmouth, like, technically better off neighbor, but definitely not the happier marriage neighbor and such. It's like, yeah, you look at him and he's rich, but he's also just the worst person in the room.
Pretty much.
Which is why some people kind of think in between Goof Troop and a Goofy movie, maybe Pete got divorced. But that's just a fan thing. It's just, don't think too hard about it, but it is just funny because when this movie was starting out, it was supposed to be like connected to Goof Troop, but then they just whittled it down to basically a movie about Goofy and Max. And Max is a teenager, and of course, we all know about the plot and such, where Max is trying to impress his girl. He wants to go to this Powerline concert to impress his girl, Roxanne. And of course, Goofy's just like, well, I don't want to lose time with my son, so we're going to go on this big old fishing trip, and shenanigans ensue. This was a very interesting movie to revisit because this was not part of my round table of Disney movies that I rewatched when I was a kid. It was mostly like the 90s movies, some of the older ones, and then the occasional short that was either separated from one of those anthology films or what have you. It was never in there. I remember when I went to my grandparents' lake house, it was always there, but that's the only time I would watch it. What about you? Was a Goofy movie like a part of your like regular round table of Disney rewatches?
Definitely seen it a couple times on TV. Maybe I rented it once or twice, like when I was younger, but to be honest, I think I've seen this movie more as an adult, at least as young as like Max was in the movie. This is one of those movies that really had to grow on me over time, and the more I started to watch it, the more I really appreciate it for what it was and not what the critics thought at the time, which you go back and read some of those reviews and it sounds like they're talking about a completely different movie.
One of those things where time has been way kinder to a Goofy movie compared to what happened when it got released back then. Like, Disney did a fairly decent rollout of marketing and advertising. They tried to get people out there. And then even like during production, of course, Jeffrey Katzenberg shown in a documentary as very diminutive, was like, okay, but Goofy sounds goofy, and it's just like, oh my god, okay, well, okay, Katzenberg, what would you like? It's like, what about Steve Martin? Let's get him. Let's give him goofy voice. And they were like, so you want him to do the voice of Goofy? And then he's like, no, he's going to talk normal because then people recognize him. And it's like, oh my god. And that, like, it was amazing to watch that documentary and see how that mentally affected Bill Farmer, who is the voice of Goofy, among many other amazing characters. It was just like, okay, man, it's what do you mean? Like, I'm too goofy to be goofy. It's such a weird thing. It's like, Katzenberg, did you like watch any Goofy shorts when you were younger or something like that? Or like, what are you talking about? And then just parts like, oh, he fell asleep for 30 minutes during a presentation of the film, and it's just like, then you'd have all these notes, and it's just like, oh my god, dude, you fell asleep for 30 minutes. If you paid the fuck attention, you would know what happened. It's interesting how, let's get this out of the way. Jeffrey Katzenberg in this documentary is painted in both a positive and extremely negative light.
Compared to all of the other documentaries that Don Hahn produced, like this, Howard, and Waking Sleeping Beauty, this one surprisingly is the most nuanced depiction of Katzenberg, because yeah, he is very Katzenberg in the things that, in like the notes that he's been given, like the whole let's cast Steve Martin as Goofy, but then it shows him actually sticking up for the production of this movie and really treating the people with as much respect.
Because there was a point where, like, again, with the whole Steve Martin thing, they were like, well, maybe we could just let's bring Bill Farmer back in. Let's re-record the whole movie with him just talking in his normal voice. And that basically turned Katzenberg total 180 on, like, I agree, let's just bring back Bill Farmer. Make him do the Goofy voice. He was both his annoying self and why he basically gave DreamWorks a bad reputation early on, but also a very solid, creative, driven person. Like when he talked early on in the documentary about what's the goal, what's the heart, show me the heart. It's like, yeah, this could have been just like a fun movie adaptation of the Goof Troop cartoon. It wouldn't have that pizzazz. That's why the DuckTales movie, while it's still a lot of fun and the animation is wonderful, just doesn't have that sticking power. There's nothing to it that it's like, it's just an elongated DuckTales episode.
Which is still fun, but like Katzenberg said, it needs the heart.
And it's amazing that I've seen this movie multiple times, like growing up and recently. I keep forgetting that this is a musical, and not because it doesn't have any good musical numbers. It does. After Today, On the Road, the Powerline music and such, all bangers. But then you learn that it was going to be even more of a musical at points. Like they made a song sequence when Goofy gets the phone call from the principal, played by Wallace Shawn, about how Max disrupted the last day of school seminar and such. But then they just don't have that many musical numbers in this movie. Or at least one or two of them are taken up by montage sequences and such. And so let's see. There's the Powerline faux concert at the school. Then there's On the Road. And then there's the montage. And then there's a song where they're drifting down the river. And then there's the official Powerline concert.
Do you count Lester's Possum Park?
Lester's Possum Jamboree. By the way, last voice role for Pat Buttram, who was a very big member of like Disney's character like actors that they would hire multiple times throughout, at the very least, the 70s of Disney's lineup. Like he's the sheriff in Robin Hood. He's this little moonshine redneck character from the Rescuers, and he's the other dog from the Fox and the Hound movie.
Oh yeah, Napoleon.
And it just, I mean, this is what I like about Disney casting at point. I mean, it's not just, Disney itself. It's the casting director for a lot of Disney movies. Yes, they do bring on the big names now more than ever, but even then, at this point, they were still bringing like character actors or TV actors or Broadway actors still to voice characters in their movie. And it was just nice to see Pat Buttram for one last time. And I just get a huge kick out of just the Pete's Possum Jamboree. Here it is. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I guess we can count it, even though the whole animatronic sequence just goes haywire. I wonder if that was ever a reference to something that happened at Disneyland at one point, like the Country Bears Jamboree or something like. I mean, that's what it's making fun of, right? Or being like a homage to the Country Bear Jamboree. There aren't that many. Well, I don't think I would call. I mean, not as an offensive thing, like call anyone here a celebrity. It's mostly voice actors, and I mean, there's Pauly Shore, but even then, by the '90s, I wouldn't call him a movie star and such.
Yeah, I think Pauly Shore is more just like he was a character actor and a comedian first, not really much of a movie star.
And yet somehow he has one of the most likable performances in this movie. It is very weird to be like, yeah, Pauly Shore was actually funny when he is extremely obnoxious. Like, it's nothing against him personally, but it's just how his characters are portrayed. If you've seen like Biodome or that direct-to-video Pinocchio movie that came out in 2022 that got all memed and such, the yesification of Pinocchio and such. Does anyone even remember that thing? Like, because it was like, there was Rob Paulson as PJ, there was James Marsden, Bill Farmer, Jim Cummings. I don't think there was really anyone here that like was above, like, okay, so maybe like Kelly Noel Martin as Roxanne and Wallace Shawn, but even then they were like minor characters in this. Like I said, Wallace Shawn was the principal, and it's just like, I love that sequence, like the After Today sequence, which was great, just full of great visual jokes and gags and just like moments, like the bus driver going like, I'm going to be sitting on my butt, and then closing the door while everyone's like, after today, our brains will be snoozing. Very catchy. I love that song.
It's a great opening number.
Yeah, it's the I Want song of the Goofy movie. It's really catchy. Like, again, the music's all kinds of good and such. But then when they get to the seminar of like the last day, Wallace Shawn shows up as the principal, and he's just like, kids have come to ask me, principal, how can I not waste my vacation? And everyone in unison just starts zoning out. And you could tell, like, after a few minutes, he's been going through some of the most boring and just like, no, this is vacation time, man. Do not give us homework over vacation. Where it's like science slumber parties. And it's just like, no, man.
Yeah, no.
This might be one of the smaller budgeted and like smaller scale projects, but the animation is still great. Like, it is full of charm, personality, and there's just like, even if you just muted the TV, and this is always a sign of good animation. You mute the TV, you can still get who these characters are from their movements. Like that whole sequence when Goofy is taking baby photos and such. See, like, you watch the motion between him and between Pete, when Pete is just like, oh, I'm good with kids, even though he's like struggling to take one photo. How he's like talking to Goofy, and he's just like, they stay with you, they they love you, and then they steal from you, and he like steals the kid's toy from. Pete's the worst in this movie, and this might be the most unlikable Pete has almost been, maybe. I mean, unless there's like some known episodes of Goof Troop where Pete is just the worst. Like, Goof Troop was never one of my rotational viewings when I was young. I grew up a little too late for the Disney afternoon, so I was never part of that Goof Troop, DuckTales, Chippendale Rescue Ranger, Gargoyles era of shows. It was also because like I was part of Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon at the time, so
I was a little bit more of a Disney afternoon person, but not until the reruns on Toon Disney. That's when I really got into like DuckTales and the Aladdin animated series.
Oh yeah. With what happens in this movie, Max does the big power line performance and such, hijacks the whole seminar and such. I mean, good. I mean, you saw everyone there. The principal was losing them. Got to pump those numbers up, man. Of course, when everything goes wrong for the performance, even though in the end it still turns out amazing.
He got exactly the results he wanted from that.
Like, the principal acts like he just toxic gassed the entire school or something, just like caused the most heinous things you could think of that happened at a school. He calls Goofy and he tells Goofy, he's just like, you better do something about your son because you don't want him to end up in the electric chair. First of all, calm down, dude. He hijacked the seminar thing. It's okay. It's the last day. Let them have this. Goofy's just like, well, maybe I should connect with my son, which is based on a tidbit that Katzenberg was talking with the team making this movie about how he was going to go on a road trip with his daughter because they weren't really connecting or seeing eye to eye, so they were going to bond with this like road trip, and that's where the movie takes off, is Goofy getting Max in the car, and they go on this road trip to bond and reconnect as father and son. Of course, obviously, Max tells a lie to Roxanne. Well, before he gets to Roxanne, and he sees her dad, which, what is with like a tiny 1% of this world where the adults don't talk, or they're just like monstrous. They're like, it's like, okay, Dad, it's okay.
It is just kind of funny, the gag that like Roxanne's dad is kind of like the watchdog of the family.
For a majority of this movie, it is just Goofy and Max. And of course, we get to the great scene of Pete's Possum Jamboree. And it's just like, Goofy's super excited to do all these corny things with Max, even though Max is like a teenager, or, you know, a 90s definition of a teenager, where he's like, oh, this is so lame and embarrassing. I don't want to do this, Dad. I want to do cool stuff, man. Even though it's funny when it's just like, doesn't this look great, Max? I haven't been here since I was a kid. And then you see a kid getting pulled in by her mom, being like, no, I don't want to go in there, no. And of course, then she ends up enjoying it because little kids fluctuate like that in emotion. Trust me. Mm-hmm. And this is where you start seeing the synergy not working between the two, because I mean, there's that meme of like someone watching a Goofy movie as a kid being like, Goofy, come on, man, let Max go to the freaking concert. Don't hold him back. Let him do what he wants. He's a teenager. He can do whatever. And then you rewatch it as an adult, and it's like, Max, you goddamn idiot. Go on that fishing trip with your dad. He just wants to bond with you. And then what the interesting dynamic is, they're both in the wrong a little. Goofy forced this road trip onto Max, and Max just did not have the either emotional or mental maturity just to talk it over with his dad about, like, hey, let's talk about this instead of just going so gung-ho over it. I mean, granted, if that happened, there would be no movie. But
right.
But that's the point. It's like, these two are not bonding, so they need to find a way and a means to reconnect with one another.
I do love where they end up towards the end of the movie, but it is kind of funny how Max like doesn't even have time to set his bag down before he's already getting rushed into the car and onto the road. There's no time for conversation. It's just like, all right, vacation time. Let's go.
That's the driving force of this movie is
No
the
pun
fact
intended.
that they're not seeing eye to eye. And yes, I get it. When you're a teenager, you want to blossom out and like grow and become your own person away from your parents, which is what we see in an extreme Goofy movie. And that we won't really talk about it, but whatever issues you may have with a Goofy movie, go watch an extreme Goofy movie and just be like, man, a Goofy movie just has it, which we'll get to in a moment. But they get on the road and there's that weird Mickey Mouse Easter egg because during the big on the road musical sequence, you see Mickey and Donald hitchhiking on the roadside, but then you see in Max's room that there's a Mickey Mouse phone. It's like, so Mickey exists in this universe, but he still has to hitchhike. Don't think about it. It's just a fun visual gag. Just don't think about it. Especially the fact that during that whole on the road sequence, there's a corpse dancing on top of the the car near the end.
I love On the Open Road. It's exactly the kind of like over the top show stopping musical number that can
Right.
only exist in animation.
Exactly. It goes all the way out with it. Tensions are high. They're not bonding. The whole possum jamboree was a misfire. Goofy doesn't really know what he wants to do. And once they get to this one fishing point, this is where things start to fall into place for the thematic commentary about the difference between two different sides of parenting, where Goofy is more hands off right now because he doesn't know what to do with Max. And then Pete shows up, of course, in this giant tank, military sized RV that just happens to do everything, which now a lot of those can do all that stuff. So, and we start to see how they talk about their kids. Goofy is very loving towards Max. He just wants to connect with him. Pete, on the other hand, with PJ, who is played wonderfully by Rob Paulsen. I miss hearing Rob Paulsen more in
Same.
animation. I know he's still doing things. It's just, as a main character. He does that kind of like dweebish voice so well. Like he does it with PJ, he does it with like Jimmy Neutron as that
Carl.
as Carl. It's such a funny performance every time he does it. And of course, the writing from Jim Magon, Chris Matheson, and Brian Pimentel were like, they found a good way to balance out. PJ and Pete's dynamic is Pete is a strict dad. He keeps him under his thumb because he doesn't want PJ to have his own identity, his own freedom. He wants PJ to be his own whipping boy, metaphorically and literally, with the whole bowling sequence at the top of the RV where he misses a strike, and then Goofy says like, well, better luck next time. He's like, oh really? He's like, PJ! And then PJ just runs up, and then he just points at the one bowling pin left, and then knocks it over, and he's like, hoo-ha! It's like strike-ola. And it's just like, Pete, that's not a good way to treat your son, and that is extremely pathetic.
Mm-hmm.
But we get one of the more unhinged moments in this movie where Goofy starts to put his foot down and teach Max how to fish. And once he does, the amazing, what's it called?
Oh, the perfect cast.
And it accidentally gets one of Pete's steaks. Always funny. And like anytime Pete suffers is good for the audience, which is the point.
Oh, yeah.
For a lot of his character. Goofy like does the perfect cast. It just so happens to land in front of Bigfoot because Bigfoot just happens to be in this part of the world. Don't question it. But we get a great performance from Frank Welker just doing monster noises. Like, man, Frank Welker is just one of the best to do that. I mean, like, we got great people now, like D. Bradley Baker and Alan Tudyk are good at what they do. But Frank Welker, man, he's a beast.
Literally.
I mean, that's what you get when you're Scooby-Doo, Freddy Jones, and Megatron for like decades. Max and Goofy get trapped in their car. Okay, oh no, that sucks. But they got footage of Bigfoot until they realize Bigfoot has the camera and starts ruining the footage by pulling the stuff out of it. And there's a great moment where everything's calm. They get a can of ABC soup, probably SpaghettiOs, but not SpaghettiO brand. Like, it's weird because of how Disney has portrayed Goofy to see this great character moment. It's quiet, they just talk to one another, while, of course, Bigfoot listens to Staying Alive through headphones. Goofy just talks to Max. And it's one of the great moments in this movie where they start to actually bond right before Max starts to screw things up.
Of course.
I knew that was going to happen, but it would have been nice to maybe let that play out a little more. But I don't know when they were going to be able to put in something, because this isn't a long movie by any means.
It's only 78 minutes.
Yeah, so they had to basically book it. And it seemed like they had a lot of trouble actually making the movie, because at one point, Katzenberg was like, shoo a Goofy troop movie, whatever. We got to work on The Lion King and Pocahontas, so we need to take over Disney France. And y'all will have to move down a floor below, so bye. And you could just tell everyone was frustrated at this point. It's like they're just trying to make this sweet little movie, and yet they're getting hit from all sides. Technical issues, delays, like Katzenberg being Katzenberg before he gets rightfully booted by Michael Eisner, even though Michael Eisner was about to run the company into the ground in his own way. Max picks up the map and basically changes the trajectory of the road trip. It's heartbreaking to see that. It's like after that sweet moment of like the Hi Dad soup, where Max would give Goofy some of the SpaghettiOs or whatever, and it would say like Hi Dad or like something simple like I love you. And then it's just to see him feel like he has to lie to his dad is heartbreaking, which is the point.
It's a sweet moment, but then it has one of my favorite like throwaway lines where Goofy, kind of half asleep, says, "How many cups of sugar does it take to get to the moon?"
Yeah, Max doesn't answer, and then Goofy does not respond. He just goes back to bed. It's a great moment. This whole montage sequence, like travel sequence, where they go to the beach, they go to the world's biggest yarn store, they go see monster trucks, they go on roller coasters. By the way, if you watch carefully, I think you do see a lot of background characters show up multiple times throughout the movie. Like, I think you see the nuns at the monster truck rally.
That's a cool touch right there.
Yeah, I think, if I recall, and then, of course, that whole sequence where they're going to the roller coaster and Goofy throws up and he comes out and Max has a bunch of snacks and Goofy says like, no, thank you. But my favorite gag throughout this whole part is the changing of the tire gag, which it goes through like this absurdist, like Max tries to pull on the thing and then it flies off, but it then hits Goofy, hits Max, and just happens to put the wheel back into place perfectly. And the mime sequence. I don't know what it is about movies around this time period, but they were so mean to mimes. What did mimes ever do to y'all, though, folks? Because it's like they see the mime like pulling something up, and then Goofy goes over and like snips the rope. A literal piano falls onto the mime.
They just like casually walk away like nothing happened.
And then they, of course, reunite against Pete and PJ at a hotel, which there's a little mermaid Easter egg with the light switch. This is where the big other emotional point comes in. The conflict between two dads and how they raise their kids. Goofy is just having a great time until Pete puts it into his head that maybe Max is trying to manipulate him a little about where they're actually going to end the road trip on. And there's that great scene where just through denial, Goofy is like, Max might not be everything, but I love him. This one line says so much more than like an additional 5 minutes would show. Pete saying, my kid respects me. And it's like, yeah, Pete, because you threatened and scared the daylight out of him through verbal and possibly physical abuse. Like off screen, mind you. But the way PJ throughout this whole movie talks about Pete is very like, oh, my dad's going to kill me. Or after the whole detention thing, he's like, man, my dad's going to obliterate me like a bug. There's a difference. It's like, yeah, Max might be embarrassed by his dad, Goofy, but at least there's a stable, loving household there.
Yeah, if I had like PJ's dad, I would be terrified.
I mean, like, a good companion film to this would be to watch The Boy and the Beast by Mamoru Hosoda, which is about a father-son dynamic and how there are two different dads. And while the main one is kind of rough, there's still like a level of respect and love and kindness between them, where the other one is stoic and is constantly gaslighting and lying to his son's face because his son, or one of his sons, is like, I'm going to grow tusks like my dad, even though he's a human and such, when his dad's like this pig deity character or wild boar character. And the dad is constantly lying to him like the whole time. And it's just like, maybe constantly lying to your kids is not a good idea.
Nope.
Since Hosoda's getting a new movie this year, you should watch the other movies again. I think you've seen them before.
The only one I've seen actually is Belle.
Oh, okay, then we're going to definitely have to talk about the other ones. And because, I mean, they're all great. It's Hosoda. And it's a good companion piece to this movie because just like Kevin Lima did with this, it's one of the few movies that does dissect a father-son relationship. Goofy finds out about the map change, and he's just like, "Nah, this ain't real. Max could never do such a thing." Until that one moment where he tells Max to like, "You pick the road, you do it."
I want to focus on the animation of Goofy, his long face as he's slowly creeping back into the hotel room, going to bed, and then waking up. Like, you see the camera transition to
it's like
driving on the
sideways,
road.
and then turns like vertical, and it's great. And then after that whole moment when Max almost wrecks the car because he doesn't want to lie to his dad or reveal to his dad that he's literally changed where they're going. Angry Goofy is like so concerning because you don't see Goofy mad all the time, so you feel it just through the visuals alone that Goofy's mad. He is upset that he has been lied to by his own son, which is so heartbreaking for a dad to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that moment where they pull to the side and Goofy gets out and he's just like, I need a minute. Like, you can tell Goofy has just had it. It is a great scene and a great way to start the third act conflict where Max is trying to apologize, but it's like an apology won't do anything, Max. You have been lying. Like, first of all, he's been extremely bad towards the beginning of this trip, telling Goofy that he's done nothing right. This is the worst thing ever. You forced me to do this. I mean, yeah, Goofy could have talked to Max about this, but it's like Max had more of the pseudo-antagonistic role here in like between the two, and then there are moments where they shine as a loving father and son until this moment where Goofy is just like, you know what? No, fine. I'm done. I'm done. And then, of course, we get the third act chase sequence where they have to go after their car after it starts driving away from them. And they fall into the river. And the animation here is also really good. It has like that like pastel look that like Pocahontas would use for like the colors of the wind sequence and such.
I would say this is probably like my favorite parts of the movie, where the animation during this whole waterfall sequence is absolutely gorgeous. And of course, it leads to the love ballad between a father and son.
Right, exactly. It's a very sweet moment. It's probably the most forgettable song of the bunch. I forgot this song existed. And I'm not saying that it's like it's a bad song. It's just it doesn't hit the high point of the earlier song sequences. Though it still does its job well. It's not I'm not saying this is like the gargoyle song sequence from Hunchback where it just derails everything. No, it's just it doesn't hit for me as hard as the other ones do.
It's not as catchy as some of the other songs, but it still moves the story along.
Exactly. And there's that great sequence where Max gets a small fish on his toe, but Goofy picks up his foot and there's like this huge fish. Which, hey, I mean, if you've seen those catfish in like certain lakes, they can get like if you're not careful, those things can get big. And then of course there's the thrilling waterfall sequence, which Disney, for some reason at this time, had such a thing for waterfall sequences, or at the very least for this stretch of movies, because there's the Rescuers Down Under death sequence where the villain is fighting off the crocodiles, and he's just like, it's like, you all are worthless, I'm still alive, and you see his monitor lizard going like, "Rrr," and then you see him just fall off the waterfall. I don't know, it's just funny when Disney has like a stretch of certain tropes and such.
Oh, yeah.
Like the villain falling to its death. Classic Disney death. Clean, doesn't do anything. You don't have to show it on screen. Like this whole movie is great in a way that like Men in Black is great, where it has setup and payoff for about pretty much everything here that goes on through this whole movie. Where Max does the perfect cast and saves Goofy. Like, and you think he's not going to save him for a moment. It's harrowing. Again, for a Goofy movie. Again, this is Disney's thing. They've neutered or sanded off the edges of their own characters to where it is weird to see them like in those Paul Ruddish Mickey shorts, where Mickey is just kind of a little weird goblin of a character, where most of the time he's been kind of like, I got no flaws and no personality. It's so good. Like, this movie is so good at its build up and payoff. And then when they get to the Powerline concert, I did notice that Disney Plus took out a scene that happens in a Goofy movie, like near the end. I mean, it's a weird sequence, so you wouldn't miss it story wise. It's when they're like separated and like, and I had to look this up. I had to rewatch a Goofy movie, or at least this part again, where it just kind of randomly cuts to Goofy being inside the conductor thing. Because there's a sequence where he accidentally opens a door, a woman screams, and he's like, oh, like I walked in on a lady changing and such. And they took that part out, which, fair, I get it. It's like those Toy Story bloopers that don't really hold up anymore. So it's like, I get it. I get why people wanted them to keep it just for preservation's sake, but it's also like, if you could take it out and it hurts nothing, that's fine.
That's the thing. Like, I didn't even realize until you brought it up, that even was taken out, because it is such a blink and you miss it moment that like the rest of the scene still works just fine.
Because the rest of the scene is great. The Powerline concert is cool. Powerline, even though he's like a parody or an amalgamation of pop stars at the time, still feels very genuine. Like, a thing that I feel like with this movie is that they put a lot of love into every character that they focus on. Like, they have like their own lived-in world and story with each character and such. And Powerline is just a cool character. I can see why so many people love this guy.
One thing that the documentary, just like the amount of like care that went into creating the Powerline character, but also like even choreographing the concert scene. They show a lot of the live action models for bringing the show to life, and really cool how that all came together.
Because if you're going to do an intricate dance sequence, you have to have reference, man. You can't, like, a lot of people say, like, well, I can draw without reference. And it's just like, okay, well, unless you're mid-call or something like that, where you're just kind of a wonderkin of animation, you're going to always want to have reference points or like footage. That's why it's popular for a lot of animators to put their live action reference to the animation that they worked on like social media and such, where you can see like them reenacting the moment, and then you see the final production moment in animated form. They had the whole world against them, and then unfortunately the movie bombed, or it didn't do as well as it should have, or that they wanted to. And man, it's like, it's so interesting to see how many critics were like, this is a mess, this is a terrible movie, why even release this? And it's like one of the few times where you can just say like, hey, Siskel and Ebert, bugger off. Like, you are wrong here. Because now a Goofy movie being released today would have gotten so much more acclaim, because it is a different Disney movie. Because back then Disney was just like, people just wanted the fairy tale stuff from Disney. And even at that point in time, people were starting to get sick and tired of it. Even like the Animaniacs made fun of their constant fairy tale stuff. And I think it came out around the same time as Pocahontas did. So, but something magical happened. And of course, a lot of this is because of the internet, where it was shown a lot on TV. A lot of people rented it when rentals would actually, and Blu-ray and DVD and VHS purchases would actually help. Like movies a second chance. Like Tremors wouldn't be this weird 7-movie franchise without the VHS rentals from Blockbuster making Tremors, the first one, from a financial flop to a huge fan favorite. And then that happened with a Goofy movie. It basically made Disney extra money by being on TV all the time and a part of most childhood household rotations for movies and such. Like,
I don't know like what the usual turnaround was for the 90s, but I'm just looking at Wikipedia now and I noticed, so the movie came out in April of 95. By September, it was already out on VHS.
It was like a volcano waiting to erupt. When then the internet happened, and everyone was like, basically, like when the YouTube review era started, everyone basically revitalized their love for a Goofy movie. Or they were like, they were constantly sharing on message boards and such, like, yeah, Goofy movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. It was interesting to see Kevin Lima be like, because I think they realized that they had something, or something was going on, when they had a 20th anniversary screening at a D23 conference. And it was, as they say, it wasn't even one of the recommended things to go to at D23, because, of course, nowadays everyone's like, we're going to go see Marvel, we're going to go see the Pixar and Disney stages. But here, everyone was like, yeah, so many people showed up. It was like one of the most successful D23 experiences of that year. And then Kevin Lima, and I think everyone was just like, oh boy, what happened here? I thought nobody cared about this movie. And then they went online and were just like, oh my God.
Yep. This is when the floodgates really start to open and everyone is like, oh yeah, Goofy movie, that movie rocks.
Yeah, it's just like they went through a whole collage and montage of everyone, from like Rita's 101 to the Double Toasted podcast. Just like a bunch of YouTubers, TikTokers, Instagram, social media influencers, cosplayers, and just how like a Goofy movie was picked up and taken into like black culture as like a definitive black film.
I was surprised that they mentioned the Atlanta mockumentary episode. Like, of course it had to come up in conversation, but still, another example of the long-term effect that this movie had on its audience.
Because it's like, some movies from Disney's filmography stay pretty stagnant. Like, people can respect and admire the music and visuals of Pocahontas, but they just cannot get behind the story, especially the historical revisionism of the actual Pocahontas story being made into this weird Oscar bait movie, or Home on the Range, which just keeps getting worse as time goes on. I feel so bad for the people who work on that movie because it just seems like that movie gets dunked on way too much. And it's just like, I'm sorry that some people can't talk about Home on the Range without being dicks about it, but there's a reason why, like, even as I give Home on the Range so many times, I just end up disliking it so much. And same with, like, I was rewatching Ralph Breaks the Internet for an editorial, and I was like, I remember loving that movie when it was released back in 2018, but I rewatched it now, and I was like, this movie sucks.
I'm afraid to rewatch that movie for the exact same reason.
Like, I think it's worth rewatching that movie just to see how much of a misfire the executives of Disney made, like, with this movie. Like, it's so sad to rewatch it and be like, God. But with Goofy movie, its trajectory just kept going up, 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 up and away. It's a movie that is set solely in the 90s that has somehow found its way into being a timeless classic. Like, yes, you can date it in the 90s, but it is so whimsical and has so much heart with its commentary about a father-son relationships that it's somehow like one of the few modern Disney films that take place in a current day scenario and setting to be a Disney classic, to be like this huge favorite. And you get it. I get it when watching it. And like, yes, it's still not one of my 10 favorite Disney movies, but you really appreciate what has gone into it, and like all the love, all the attention to detail, the animation, the voice work, the music. It's such a gem of a Disney movie, and it's a shame that this not doing as well as they wanted, along with the DuckTales movie, stopped Disney from making these smaller movies, because that's kind of what Disney need right now. They need a smaller scale success. This happened to them during the 2000s. Like, Atlantis: The Lost Empire died on the vine, Treasure Planet died on the vine. What is the one animated film outside of maybe Princess and the Frog that did well for them in the 2000s? Lilo and Stitch. And listen, I'm excited to get that 4K Blu-ray Lilo and Stitch, but I'm also surprised that they're not making a 4K Goofy movie. Pack it with this documentary. That's like and like all of those little like videos and such. They love this movie so much to make a documentary about it with 2D animated sequences, which those take time. And yet they're not doing like a 4K Goofy movie re-release. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And it's amazing to see what films from Disney's filmography rise to the top, and then ones that kind of drop in love and reception as time goes on. Like, I wonder if anything, like, did Siskel reconsider the movie, or like, did he hear about it, or like the sudden fan base before his passing and such? It's just interesting to, 30 years ago, like, this movie became such a pop culture and personal touchstone to so many people. You just don't get stories like this anymore. Like, oh, a movie does well, okay, then that's it. So moving on. This movie affected people. It's wild.
Its influence, it can still be felt in things like Pixar's Turning Red. Like, you can see the influences of that. Although instead of like a father and son, a mother and daughter. And there is still a musical element to that too with what's
the boy band. I forgot, but no, I know what you mean. Disney would try to do more stories like this. There's Treasure Planet, where the core of that movie is between the lead and John Silver, because our lead feels so neglected by missing a father figure that he uses, like, he connects to John Silver and John Silver connects to him like a father figure. And that's like the whole driving force. And that's why that part of the movie is so good, along with the amazing animation by Glenn Keane and such. But still, it's just so cool to see movies like this, because sometimes some movies get like this kind of fan base and midnight re-releases like Troll 2 and whatever, but nobody's going there to celebrate a good movie. They're going there to get in a rowdy theater and to shit on the movie all night long, along with the actors who are like, yeah, we know it sucks, but this is fun that y'all appreciate the badness to a degree to keep it alive all these years. Because, yeah, a lot of good movies come and bad movies come and go, but good movies sometimes fall under the radar and then rise up to the top to become these new treasured experiences for people. And compared to 90s Disney to now, there is just a lot of heart lacking in Disney's current productions, and they're all doing their best there. A lot of the issues are on the executive level. There's just nothing so far this year that has hit, or through this decade, or through the 2010s, maybe outside of the first Moana and such, to really knock it out of the park like this, like, or have this genuine feel to it. It's amazing to watch this while I'm working on my Disney editorial for Media Magpies.
One more thing I'll just say about where Disney is now before we briefly talk about the character of Max and his brief staying power in the Disney canon. It is very interesting how problem with Disney is they've just gotten too big to do something this small and put this much care into it, because everything has to be this huge blockbuster event, has to make $1 billion or
else
they think it's a failure.
Which is like, that's why Lilo and Stitch did well. That's why The Emperor's New Groove did okay, but then became one of those fan favorite Disney films where they just did a smaller scale story. They just let the creatives go and put the heart into this project. And I mean, you could tell with an extreme Goofy movie, especially with the fact that while it's okay, as a follow-up to a Goofy movie, it just doesn't hold up at all. Like, while Goofy movie is like timeless, an extreme Goofy movie is a very early 2000s, late 90s, with its huge focus on the X Games, and the heart and soul of Goofy and Max's dynamic is not there. And Max is just way too much of an asshole in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it just doesn't have a good story connected to it. And that's the thing at the end of the day. You could have the best production values, the biggest celebrities, or in this case, just like some amazing performances from Brad Garrett and Jeff Bennett, along with James Marsden and Bill Farmer. But if the story's not there, you're going to lose people. And golly, do they lose people in that extreme Goofy movie. I did not care about any of the characters. There are some funny moments and good animation. And then again, Jeff Bennett shows up like so many times throughout the movie, and he is just a great voice talent. But do you care about what happens? No.
Not really.
Yeah, the music's great, but that's because it's focusing on the 70s disco stuff. And it almost has something there. I think Monsters University does this movie better. Like, and I'm not a fan of Monsters University, but whatever faults Monster University has, it has that great moral message at the end. And it's just a better college shenanigan film. So,
At best, the subplot that I enjoyed the most from this movie is Goofy's romance with the librarian. But even that is like an extremely goofy movie is, it's fine. It's entertaining, but it is exactly the movie that critics thought a Goofy movie was in the 90s.
yeah, total mess. I mean, yeah, the whole sequence with PJ and the slam poet is great. And then the one sequence where Pauly Shore has like probably the best joke in the movie where he's just looking at his hands and he's just like, do you ever wonder why we wear gloves? And of course, if you know anything about the nature of why a lot of cartoon characters wore gloves back in the day, get ready.
Yep.
That has its whole yikes problematic history. So I'm amazed that they were able to let that joke slide, where it's just like, I don't think you want to look it up, dude. Even though this is a whole world of dog people, but the documentary, I love documentaries like this where it's not afraid to show the good and the bad, because sometimes you get those like behind the scene featurette in movies and they're just like, everything's great. And it's like, no. Tell the people who worked on The Emperor's New Groove that, like, look at this wacky shenanigan filled Disney classic. And it's like, yeah, let's also talk about the intensive restructuring of the movie that Disney just does not want you to know about for some reason. But anyway, like, not just a goof, just and how it connects to a son feeling disconnected from his father because his father left him, or just in general does a great job of capturing everything about why this movie is great and how much of an impact it's left on people. Even Max stayed around for a little bit before they just kind of shunted him off into the obscurity to where it's just Goofy these days. Even though there's that one episode of DuckTales that shows that Max and Roxanne got together, so like little Easter egg.
I did appreciate that bit in that DuckTales episode.
It is funny how much this, like, certain projects from Disney do not like Roxanne as a character for some reason, and I think that a lot of that has to probably be because of Lasseter, because that's why we still don't have House of Mouse, where you do actually see Roxanne and Max there. But I don't know. It's funny. Disney loves this movie, but mostly because it still makes them a lot of merchandise sales and screenings and what have you. But they're not willing to do anything else with it, which probably for right now, for the best. I don't want to see a new Goofy movie unless they're going to really take their time with it, which
Same.
they're probably not going to, because, well, we saw what happened with Moana 2, so...
Yeah.
But yeah, no, if for some reason you have not watched this movie, it's good. Like, it stands out among Disney's 90s films. It's more in line with, like, Oliver and Company being a contemporary Disney movie.
This, Oliver and Company, and Lilo and Stitch are kind of the perfect trifecta of Disney telling contemporary stories.
I know. Maybe we should talk about Lilo and Stitch, like, when the remake drops. Just, get that engagement going and such, but we'll have to see. Yeah, watch that and watch the documentary. I think just behind the scenes animation documentaries are just a great thing in general, because you don't really get to see the process at hand anymore. Like, it wasn't never in front of people's eyes as often as it probably is now. And even if you just want to watch it for the 2D animated sequences, those are great.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think that's really it for now. We're going to take a break, and then we'll get right back to it with our long-awaited, we will finally do an episode on Hell of a Boss episode, while we're also doing stuff like watching anime, and I'm going to see that new Hatsune Miku-based movie from G Kids and such. So when we get back to it, we'll have a lot for y'all in store.
Until next time, Cameron, where can everyone find you online?
You could find me on Blue Sky at camseyeview.biz. I have my own website called camseyeview.biz where I review animated films and shows from around the world called The Other Side of Animation. I also am a contributor to Media Magpies, your new destination for pop culture and film media criticism and discussions. I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/camseyeview. That's where you can find me.
And you guys can find me on various social media sites at Captain K42. You can also check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Blue Sky at Renegade Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube, on Podchaser. Consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need escape? So do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.